In one of Virginia's prestigious suburbs, nestled amidst meticulously manicured lawns, tall manicured hedges, and gardens adorned with seasonal flowers, the residential community named Willow Creek Estates rose like a slice of heaven. Each house, thoughtfully designed and an architectural marvel, seamlessly blended the elegance of traditional American architecture with modern luxury, featuring expansive terraces that symbolized both tranquility and affluence. At its heart, the shimmering Willow Creek Lake, with its clear sapphire waters, promised residents not only a peaceful life, but also a serene, contemplative space for meditation. The morning sun sparkled brilliantly on the lake's surface, reflecting the faint clouds in the sky, and birdsong filled the air with joyous melodies. The neighborhood residents saw her as an ordinary widow. With her everyday clothes and simple lifestyle, she went unnoticed in this place dominated by luxury and status. Yet, her gaze had resolved the most intricate logistical equations of war, the most fragile balances of human life, without even blinking. The peaceful ambience of this neighborhood stood in stark contrast to the unending storms brewing within Sarah's inner world, to the relentless memories in her mind. Sarah Hayes, in her late 40s, was a tall, athletic Indian-American woman with wavy blonde hair, usually pulled back in a loose yet practical ponytail. Her broad shoulders and muscular arms were a testament to years of rigorous physical training and demanding military assignments. Her sun-kissed, slightly tanned skin and the distinct fine lines around her eyes were marks of long hours spent outdoors, perhaps even scars from desert storms and harsh conditions. A deep, penetrating intelligence sparkled in her eyes, her gaze always alert and observant, like a hawk scanning every detail around her. Her comfortable athletic wear, old running shorts, a loose-fitting gray t-shirt and worn athletic shoes made her seem ordinary in the eyes of the neighborhood's chic residents, almost causing her to disappear. The worn fishing rod she held, its metallic gray tip glinting faintly, and a rusty bait box, promised a peaceful day by the lake, a simple mother's joy far from the shadows of the past. Sarah had moved here with her 14-year-old daughter, Lily Hayes, an intelligent and sensitive young girl like her mother, with keen brown eyes. After her father's passing, Lily could sense the immense strength behind her mother's quiet demeanor, her unwavering determination. Sarah had come to Willow Creek Estates, seeking a serene life, far from the noise of war and loss, to rebuild her soul. However, this seemingly idyllic neighborhood harbored its own hidden battles, its invisible enemies. Eleanor Vance, the president of the neighborhood's Homeowners Association (HOA) in her late 50s, was a thin woman with short black hair, a sharp nose, and a stern gaze, an authoritarian figure resembling a granite sculpture. She always wore elegant, custom-designed, expensive brand dresses, choosing every word meticulously and emphatically. Her real estate company, Vance Realty and Developments, located in a prominent glass building in the central business district of the city, was hatching secret, murky plans to acquire numerous properties in the neighborhood at low prices. Eleanor had imposed absurdly strict rules prohibiting fishing, swimming, and even picnicking in Willow Creek Lake. While her excuse was environmental concerns such as preserving the lake's ecosystem, her true aim was to purchase the lake through a clandestine commercial agreement with Meridian Properties Group, a financially distressed, failing company, for her personal and commercial gain. One day, as Sarah and her daughter Lily were peacefully fishing in the lake, enjoying the tranquility, Eleanor Vance and her assistant approached them. Eleanor's gaze was condescending, her voice as cold as ice, cutting into Sarah's soul like a razor. "Miss Hayes, you are clearly violating neighborhood rules. Fishing is strictly prohibited in our lake. This violation incurs a $500 fine." Lily's eyes instantly welled up, her face contorted with the pain of injustice. On Sarah's face, after a momentary surprise, a cold, steely glint of anger appeared. At that very moment, a former army engineer, who had organized convoys on the dusty roads of Iraq and solved the most complex logistical equations, began a silent war in this elite neighborhood. Because some wars germinate in the most unexpected places, in the calmest waters, during the most ordinary fishing trips. Sarah Hayes was a former military logistics officer who had risen to the rank of captain, having served in Baghdad, Iraq in 2007. In the most dangerous, most chaotic war zones, she had organized massive convoys with millimeter precision, delivering vital supplies such as food, medicine, and ammunition to the front lines via the riskiest routes. Her gaze had resolved the most intricate logistical equations of war like a chess master in mere seconds. Even amidst the sounds of bullets and explosions, she could calculate with pinpoint accuracy the safest route for a supply convoy, the carrying capacity of a bridge, or the quickest and most clandestine path for an ammunition shipment. The unshakable discipline, extraordinary strategic thinking, crisis management skills, and the instinct to see the unseen that she acquired during those days had become an inseparable part of her identity. A deep intelligence sparkled in her eyes, her gaze always alert and observant. The neighborhood residents saw her as an ordinary widow. With her everyday clothes and simple lifestyle, she went unnoticed in this place dominated by luxury and status, even becoming an object of ridicule. Yet the warrior within her was on alert even for the slightest rule infraction, nurtured by the memories of the past. Sarah emphatically refused to pay the unjust $500 fine. This was not merely a monetary penalty, it was an overt symbol of Eleanor Vance's oppressive and unfair rule over the neighborhood. Leveraging her strategic intelligence and operational planning skills, honed by her military background, Sarah decided to investigate Eleanor's weaknesses, the flaws in the system, and her dark schemes, rather than confronting her directly. First, she meticulously read every single word, every article, every paragraph of the Willow Creek Estates Homeowners Association (HOA) regulations, down to the minutest detail, just as she would analyze a logistics plan or enemy intelligence in Baghdad. She identified loopholes, contradictions, and the actual limits of Eleanor's authority, discerning how it could be legally manipulated. Next, she discreetly contacted other residents in the neighborhood who had suffered similar injustices or oppression at Eleanor's hands. Mr. Thomas Davies, in his 70s, was a retired financial expert and a former Marine. He was a gruff but fair man with a sharp mind who harbored deep suspicions about the neighborhood's financial dealings and had been tracking Eleanor's shady practices for a long time. Ms. Evelyn Clark, in her early 60s, was a retired lawyer. She was a kind, elegant, yet sharp-witted woman, unwavering on legal matters, who also felt disturbed by Eleanor's arbitrary enforcement of rules. These two experienced and trustworthy allies joined Sarah's cause. Together, they began organizing clandestine strategic meetings at the Lakeside Bean, an old, dimly lit but cozy cafe, or at the Willow Creek Community Hall. By day, Sarah appeared as an ordinary mother, preparing meals for Lily and helping with homework, but by night, she meticulously planned the strategies for a nightmare-like war, silently plotting to dismantle Eleanor's empire. As their investigation deepened, Eleanor Vance's dirty laundry began to unravel, layer by painstaking layer. It became horrifyingly apparent that Vance Realty and Developments was exploiting corrupt HOA rules to acquire properties in the neighborhood at scandalously low prices, particularly targeting the homes of elderly and vulnerable residents. They deliberately imposed absurdly high fines on homeowners, systematically intimidating them into selling their homes. The biggest secret, however, revolved around Willow Creek Lake. Eleanor was secretly negotiating with Meridian Properties Group, the lake's true owner, leveraging their severe financial distress and failing status to acquire the lake for a price far below its market value. Eleanor's ostensible reason for prohibiting fishing, swimming, and other recreational activities, environmental concerns, and the preservation of the lake's ecosystem was merely a sophisticated pretext. Her true intention was to seize the lake for herself, and in the future exploit it for a massive, highly profitable commercial real estate project. There were even concrete suspicions that she had manipulated the lake's ecological test results and falsified environmental reports. Sarah meticulously gathered this evidence, as if her life depended on it, just as she would have deciphered enemy logistics networks, terrorist cells, or sabotage plots in Iraq. Every document, every email, every phone record became a crucial milestone on the path to Eleanor's downfall. Among the neighborhood residents, a growing, deeply felt discontent towards Eleanor was palpable. However, most remained silent, paralyzed by fear. Mr. Jason Miller, in his 40s, was a well-intentioned but overshadowed member of the HOA board. He was fed up with Eleanor's oppressive tactics and unfair practices and began discreetly leaking information to Sarah, providing insider support. Sarah, leveraging her military intelligence and logistical expertise, meticulously prepared an irrefutable dossier that exposed all of Eleanor's financial manipulations, legal loopholes, and clandestine agreements. This dossier was not merely a stack of papers, it was tangible proof of Eleanor's arrogance and greed, legally valid enough to stand in court. However, definitively halting Eleanor's plans and altering the neighborhood's fate required more, a much bolder move. Meridian Properties Group, the lake's owner, was in severe financial distress and desperate to sell the lake as quickly as possible for the highest possible price. Eleanor's offer stood at a mere $300,000. When Sarah heard this from Thomas Davies and Evelyn Clark, her cool-headed, calculating strategist was once again called to duty. Her eyes narrowed, and a decisive plan began to form in her mind, and this quiet, unassuming woman, with an unexpected, shocking $350,000 move, would utterly stun the entire neighborhood. Sarah, drawing upon the retirement bonus she had meticulously saved during her years of military service and the life insurance proceeds from her late husband, surpassed Eleanor's offer. Without notifying anyone, she discreetly contacted Mr. Robert Wallace, the weary and desperate representative of Meridian Properties Group. Robert Wallace, in his early 50s, was tired of his secret dealings with Eleanor and her relentless pressure, actively seeking a resolution. Sarah presented him with an unexpected, audacious, all-cash offer of $350,000. Robert Wallace was utterly astonished by this unforeseen proposal. Not only was it higher than Eleanor's offer, but crucially it was an all-cash deal which would expedite the transaction and meet the company's urgent need for liquidity. Within a few days, all legal procedures meticulously completed, the deed to Willow Creek Lake was officially transferred to Sarah Hayes's name. This decisive move completely derailed all of Eleanor Vance's intricate plans and calculations. The lake now belonged to Sarah, not to Eleanor. The neighborhood's shared treasure had become a symbol of Sarah's personal sacrifice. News of this event spread like wildfire through the neighborhood, sending shockwaves of disbelief and sparking an immense wave of fervent support for Sarah. Everyone was in utter shock. No one had ever anticipated that this humble woman, whom they had dismissed as merely an ordinary widow, could execute such a strategic and courageous maneuver. Eleanor Vance, consumed by a furious rage, was utterly beside herself. Upon learning she had lost the lake, she smashed glass objects in her lavish Vance Realty and Developments office, pounded her desk with her fists. The thwarting of her deceitful plan was not merely a financial loss for her, but a devastating blow to her egotistical pride. She escalated her oppressive tactics in the neighborhood, initiating legal harassment, filing baseless complaints, and even resorting to outright threats against Sarah and her allies. But it was far too late. Sarah and her steadfast allies, Mr. Thomas Davies, Ms. Evelyn Clark, and Mr. Jason Miller, presented all the irrefutable evidence they had meticulously collected to Ms. Olivia Stone, a local journalist. Olivia Stone, in her 30s, was an ambitious, truth-seeking, fearless journalist who believed in justice. Olivia extensively reported on Eleanor's corrupt practices, financial manipulations, and abuse of HOA rules, detailing the pressure she exerted on neighborhood residents. The news resonated widely in the city's leading newspapers and local television channels. The public, outraged, rose up against Eleanor, organizing protests and initiating petition campaigns. Under overwhelming public pressure, the HOA board convened an emergency meeting. Mr. Jason Miller took a firm stance against Eleanor, methodically presenting the collected evidence point by point. The evidence was so solid, so undeniable, that it was impossible to refute. Eleanor Vance was ultimately charged with abuse of power, fraud, and making threats. Due to public outcry and court pressure, she was permanently removed from HOA management. This event marked a turning point in Willow Creek Estates. Comprehensive reforms began in the neighborhood. The governing board adopted a more transparent, participatory, and fair structure. The lake was renamed Rachel's Lake in memory of Sarah's late wife, Rachel. This name symbolized Rachel's love for nature and Sarah's unwavering loyalty to her memory. The lake was transformed into a public nature preserve, allowing everyone to fish, swim, and enjoy nature. Sarah, along with her daughter Lily, launched a special nature and fishing program for children, aiming to instill sustainability and community awareness in the new generation. This program became a new symbol of the neighborhood, the community. After these events achieved a more just, transparent, and cohesive governance, Sarah Hayes, who had come seeking peace, had perhaps unwillingly transformed into a hero. Her story powerfully demonstrated how individual resistance and community solidarity can effectively challenge oppressive and corrupt systems. It also provided an inspiring example of how justice can be achieved through the conscious use of legal and financial instruments. Sarah once again proved that war rages not only on battlefields amidst bullets and bombs, but also in silence, in rulebooks, behind serene lake views, and in the clandestine corners of neighborhood meetings. and she showed that the greatest victories come from the most unexpected heroes. This story symbolizes the triumph of overcoming prejudices, perseverance, and silent power. It serves as a stark reminder that appearances can be profoundly deceiving, and that true value lies within the heart, the spirit, and the unwavering resolve demonstrated in the face of adversity. To ensure that more individuals are profoundly moved by powerful human stories such as this, we earnestly encourage you to subscribe to our channel, and if this narrative resonated deeply with you, to express your appreciation by liking this video. In the comments section below, we invite you to share your own poignant stories of silent heroes you have encountered in your life. Individuals like Sarah Hayes, whose names you may not know, but whose profound presence you undeniably felt. Perhaps our next compelling story will be profoundly inspired by the experiences you share, or perhaps in a twist of fate, it will be your very own story. Because ultimately, some stories speak with a resonant power that far transcends mere words and leave the most indelible imprints upon the soul.